That's interesting because Ime alone could carry basically any pairing. Do you guys find Steve Nash attractive? Welcome to Spinsters, a podcast where if you're going to fly somebody out for a first date, do not make it for a Lakers game. Does that work? Okay. I'm Haley. This is Jordan. We've got producer Harry in the studio. We've got Sierra, who does our socials in the studio, but she is also babysitting, so her picture's not up. Follow our subscribe to our YouTube, and like it. And we've got Mina Kimes on today. Thank you. I am very tired because I moderated a panel at an analytics conference, and that took a lot of my brain energy. Actually, let's not have me say I'm tired on the podcast. I'm like super energetic, and it's a really fun conversation with Mina.
After the break.
Now that, after the break, sounded really appealing. Mina, you are a Nets fan. How many in this room, and I'm not meaning this as a slight because I think I've had enough Clippers fans call me names over the last couple of days to never want to slight any fan base again. Everyone in this room, how many Nets fans do you know? And again, this is not a slight, and I mean personally, that you know personally. Because I think I just know you.
Well, ever since I became a lifelong Nets fan on February 13th, 2021, I've had the privilege of meeting a ton of Nets fans because they're so excited to have anyone join their fold that like a lot of them reached out. My favorite podcast is a Nets podcast I listen to every episode. It's the only podcast where I listen to every episode. It's called The Glue Guys. And through them, I've met many Nets fans, actually. And, you know, it is a very loving, warm community.
That's amazing.
That is great.
I think, the franchises that have sometimes, I would say, that are proportionally less fortunate than they are fortunate, always have the best fan bases.
Totally.
That is so true. What was the podcast?
It's called Glue Guys. BK Glue Guys. It's just these two friends who I think have been doing this for like a decade. And this is kind of interesting. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where a podcast or a writer or TV personality makes you more interested in the team or the sport or that. Like it's almost like you love reading the recap so much that you stick with the television show. I came across this podcast when I started following the Nets more, and then I just was like, damn, I got to watch every Nets game now, and I do, because I just love it.
That's Stadio for me. Stadio is a soccer podcast that they'll talk about Bundesliga, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll watch the game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like, German league soccer is just not something I would stumble across.
Yeah, I want to be at the water cooler. I want to get these jokes about Bruce Brown and then have my own jokes about Nick Claxton. You know, I got to be in that conversation.
Yeah,
it feels like an inside club because you guys all love the same thing, so you're able to, you know, think of new things that you will just riff off of each other.
And crucially, a thing that no one loves.
Most
people actively hate.
It's a small club.
It makes us, you know, shoulder to shoulder. Like we're more, you know. Screw everyone else. We only need each other.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. How did you feel about the game, about the matchup with the Celtics?
Yeah. So, the game, I feel like the game has kind of created some bad vibes going into this matchup because everybody saw how unnecessarily close it was after the early domination. And also they saw like, oh, damn, this team, like, they really are dependent on two players, even though my beloved Bruce Brown had an excellent game. But I think the struggles they have at the guard position have made people concerned about this next round, and rightfully so when you start thinking about, you know, the matchups. That said, I do think they have a chance. You can't bet against KD and Kyrie, even if every game's going to be like 140 to 139 or whatever, especially Durant in particular. But it's definitely challenging. It wasn't my most feared matchup. That was the Bucks, honestly. it wasn't my most desired matchup. That was the Sixers. And without maybe Robert Williams, we'll see. I think they've got a puncher's chance. I think with him, it would have been pretty tough. But I don't know. I could see it going to 7 either way.
What does a puncher's chance mean?
Well, it's like a fighting chance.
Oh, I've never heard a phrase like that.
I hope it's a phrase now.
No, I'm sure it is. I have been.
Somebody Google it.
Have you guys ever heard you can shear a sheep many times, but you can only skin it once?
No, that sounds.
I've heard only one way to skin a cat, which is gross.
Yeah. No, I think they mean different. They definitely mean different things. It's like you can keep using, like for example, you have an apartment and you have to keep paying rent. No, never mind. I'm not going to apply this to anything really right now. I use all my brain energy on that analytics conference. Anyway, someone looked at me real weird when I said that the other day.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. I've never heard that one.
Maybe it's like regional.
I would say based off the content and the actual words, and the just general farm lingo, it probably is regional, yeah.
Farm lingo is very much a local thing.
Probably. So the interesting thing to me is not Ben Simmons. I don't think he's gonna play. Like, do you guys think he's gonna play?
I do.
Oh,
Jordan, you go first. I'll tell you why I do.
It's getting very specific of when he's coming back. Like, I think the reports today is between games 4, 5, and 6, which if he's going to come back, personally, I don't want him to come back. I do not think this is the best environment for him to make his basketball debut after everything that's happened. The playoffs, such high pressure. The last time we saw him was in the playoffs, especially if the Nets move past this and they could potentially play the Sixers. That could just be a lot of drama. I want to believe in his therapy work and everything that's been going on, but it's a lot. It's high intensity for him to come back right now.
It's a lot to ask someone with, pretty serious back injury to come in and bang around, which is what they kind of need him to do. And to facilitate, which is, as I mentioned with the Cavs game, like a real problem with this team because you want Kyrie off the ball. You remember last year when James Harden, they made that decision for him, and it's clearly best, but there's just no one to point guard the way that Ben Simmons potentially could, or to play defense, the perimeter defense against the Celtics the way he could. Yeah. But it is a little bit terrifying, right? The reason I think he is going to play is, as a super fan, I watch like every Steve Nash presser, right? And he normally talks about Ben Simmons like he's dead. Or he doesn't exist. Like, we were like, is Ben coming back? He's like, I haven't even seen him in days. And then the Nets Twitter account will post a video of Ben Simmons like at a shoot around or something. It like makes no sense, right? So lately, I'm Nash decoding for you guys. The last comment was today. He was asked about him, and he said, if he's healthy, we certainly would love for him to compete, pardon me. This is coming off the Shams and Woj reports about, the day. So that is the most optimistic he has sounded all season, or ever since the trade, rather. Makes me think it's happening.
That sounds like a dig to me. If he's healthy, we'd love for him to play. It's like, do you ever talk to him?
Dude, but before he was like, who's Ben Simmons? Ben, is he
so
on
progress.
Our team? Yeah. You got to look at these things in context and as a trajectory. The dude lies. He was like, we're not trading James Harden. Like, he's a full-on
Do you think he
misleader.
Knows, though? Do you think he's, like, privy to those conversations? Or he's just, like, a pretty face? Okay.
No, he definitely... the reason I think he's going to continue being the coach of the Nets, despite, some worthy criticisms, is that him and KD seem to be moving in lockstep on all things. I do think he knows.
Yeah.
Right.
They seem like they're BFFs. And that's totally. As long as that keeps happening, his job is secure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I would love for Ben Simmons to come. I don't think I would, actually. I'm like kind of with Jordan. I don't know that it's a great environment for him. And also, you're never more physical than in the playoffs. And like you said, he's still doing individual workouts. He's yet to begin sprinting, which I think is a highly specific thing that even for someone who doesn't have any kind of like physical therapy doctor training, isn't good. You can't move fast.
Yeah,
it's
not
not good for an NBA playoff game.
Probably not great. I think there's a lot of this kind of hinges on what they're going to ask from him, right? And that's sort of unclear. Because you can easily say, well, they just need like 20 minutes of defense from him. He's not going to even be in the... And that's easy to say, but we're talking about a guy who hasn't played basketball in like, a million years. To ask him to suddenly even do 15, 20 minutes and have it kind of awkward and unclear, like is he getting Drummond's minutes or whatever? It's a little bit confusing. So it's kind of like one of those things where I do think he's going to play, like I said, but as far as like how it looks, I don't think I'll know until I see it.
Yeah, and I think you guys are right that you want it to be in the most low stakes situation possible. Like I don't know if he would go for this. Some guys kind of have an issue with it and other guys welcome it, but you'd almost want to put him in the G League just so he can get low pressure reps. But obviously that wouldn't happen this year. Going back to Steve Nash for a second, because I've been stuck on this. What kind of like person do we think he is? Like, what's his archetype of bro? Does he transcend the bro? Is he not one? I mean, I said I've seen him in person once in Manhattan Beach at a bar called Sharky's. So I do think bro applies.
I met him. I was interviewing. It's funny now that he's in net. Actually, I was interviewing Goran Dragic in Los Angeles for a story I was doing on Luka Doncic because they were friends from Slovenia, and Nash came by her table, and I was very starstruck. But in my 3-minute interaction, witnessing their conversation between him and who would then become his player now, he just struck me as like immensely kind and easy to be around. And I think that's, he's basically coaching on vibes alone right now. And it seems to be, this is a team that went through like crazy ass drama this season. And
so weird.
Again, as much as you can criticize, he's had to do like 300 lineups or whatever. As much as you can criticize some of the decisions he's made, he has largely kept that drama at bay. Like, Kyrie is there and no one's mad about it. At this point, I guess, I don't know. I think he's pretty successful as like a manager of human beings.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a vibes guy. Definitely a dad. Like if you check his Instagram, he has a lot of kids and he's definitely posting about them. They're so cute. I get yoga bro. He's very in shape, I feel like. That's all of that is Steve Nash. And even everything with the drama, he tried to keep everything mellow. If reporters were coming at him, he was just like, we're fine. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Just same thing with Ben Simmons. If he's healthy, he'll play. He's not getting too high or too low.
Yeah. It's impressive.
He's KD's Ty Lue.
Good take.
Thank you.
Katie loves him. It's obvious. So
yeah, which is sometimes it's all that matters. If it's like a player who you basically trust with to make large executive decisions, or who's saying, I will be making large executive decisions. Yeah. Like I'm sure if after a game Nash has one of those bizarre rotations, him and Katie are talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Probably, yeah.
I want to talk about Bruce Brown, but first I want to talk about Kyrie. I would say he doesn't enjoy being in Boston. I actually have the stats. I wrote this on a note card.
Analytics.
For the analytics. That's my theme of the day. That's why I'm wearing a sweater vest. Which then I was like, I can't just wear a sweater vest. So I put on the biggest hoops I own. And then I was like, this doesn't even go together. So then I went with
it totally goes.
Schmedium.
You look like sexy Urkel.
Hoops. Oh, thank you. Oh my God.
I love it. Yeah.
High praise.
So since he was a Celtic, Kyrie has played a few games in Boston, not as many as you'd think. He's been gone since he is with Brooklyn since 2019, 2020 season. He was inactive for both of the games that were in TD Garden that first season. Obviously, he was hurt for a great majority of it. The second season he was with them, the 2021 season, they played in Boston the second game of the season. I think you guys will remember this because it was a big deal. It was his first time back. He had 37 points, 7 threes, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, only 1 turnover. It was a W for the Nets. So obviously that was nice. I don't think that was the lucky incident. I think that came during the playoffs, right?
Yeah. Oh, the hate crime.
The hate
the stepping on Lucky. Yeah, I think it was definitely more heightened. It was
playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when people like fans were just getting back in arenas, right? Because that was like the water bottle. Was that the same time?
Okay, so then that would be 20. You're right. Then that would be the one game that he played in the 2021-2022 season in TD Garden. In the 2021 season, they obviously played in the opening round. He did, one game was okay, 16 points. The other game was 39 points, 11 rebounds. I think overall, Boston's got the higher seeding. Obviously, they're going to have the first two games in Boston. I think that helps Kyrie. I think that, I don't think it's a good situation. I wouldn't recommend it for his mental health. But at the same time, he's obviously fueled by it. I think this bodes kind of well.
You know who's really fueled by it? I was thinking about this when the Nets had that demolishment of the Sixers and the Ben Simmons return, right? Kevin Durant is like Emperor Palpatine. Like, the hate so clearly flows through him and makes him stronger. I mean, he was incredible in that game. And it was like he was like taking all of the anger at Ben Simmons and just melting it into his core, and it was coming out, in mid-range jumpers or something. And I think going there, obviously it's going to be loaded for a number of reasons. This series is historically loaded, right? Because of the history between these teams. But I think that the Kyrie anger is going to make him ball out. I mean, he's already balling out, but
yeah. And the underdog, they are the 7th seed. So he just has so much quote unquote underdog. Yeah.
He loves that shit, dude. He loves that shit. You can see it in his eyes. Yeah.
To be able to beat Boston as the quote unquote underdog, I think that is fueling him beyond measure. He's gonna drop at 50 at least once in the series.
I could see that. KD is the ultimate, will back you up if you get into a fight. You bump someone at a bar, the person looks at you and is upset and drunk, and you need your friend to help. He's gonna help, I think.
And he's playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been so complete. I mean, the Cleveland game, just his defense, which is sadly necessary right now for the Nets. The assists, his some of the games recently, his facilitating has been incredible. Because, teams are doubling him and trapping him and stuff. And, the way he's reacted to that is, I mean, right now, this goes what I was saying. I understand why most people are picking the Celtics to win, but KD's in God mode at the moment. What are it's always going to be a possibility.
I think that go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say, speaking of God mode, Bruce Brown has really been amazing on when they are double teaming Kyrie and KD. He's wide open always, multiple times. How is he so important for this Celtics series to you?
Oh my God. Well, he's right now the 3rd best net, which is crazy.
He is.
He is. Him and the NBA's most handsome player, Nick Claxton, I would say, is up there as well. But Google it. It's
who are you saying, Bruce or Nick is?
Oh, Nick Claxton.
Okay,
he should be a male model.
I don't want to make Bruce Brown insecure, but that made me pause. Nick Claxton,
when I showed you his picture, I think that was the last time we recorded. I was like, Haley, you got to look at this. Google
he's
beautiful.
Look, there's a number of beautiful people in this series on the sidelines and on the court. Let's see who refs it.
Yeah, but no one. This dude's in a class. I think it was DeAndre Jordan who hit him in the face, and I was like, get your hands off his beautiful face. How did I get distracted? Okay, back to Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown's my favorite net. It's just kind of what Kevin Pelton had a great piece about, sort of how his role came to be and how potentially Gary Payton the second could take on a similar role with the Warriors, which is this sort of weird small center who just cuts and takes advantage of the fact that no one guards him. And in the last game, hit a few threes, right? And I think he's really grown as a player. Maybe not as a person, because he publicly went after Horford. I don't know if you guys saw that.
And Tice.
And Katie was like, yo, shut the fuck up. But that's who
Chill,
he is.
bro.
He has no chill, and I think it shows as a player. But if you watch him, he's talking shit the entire game, and I love it. I think he's so funny. I just enjoy him so much.
Yeah, he has that like raw energy that does help on the court and things like pushing the pace, but it's also just he's got like that, I don't want to say like that almost like rookie like energy, whereas like older players don't have it. I'm thinking about Winning Time and how Magic is so like upbeat, and at the beginning of the show like other players weren't having it. So yes, I think he does provide a lot. What he said about Horford and Tice, I don't think was that bad. He basically just said,
I mean, it's just true.
Yeah, the plan is that we're gonna like attack them in the paint because they don't have Robert Williams. And yeah, like that's anyone could tell you that was going to be the plan. I don't think it's that I don't think it was rude at all. I think if anything, it's like, well, maybe just don't say like what you're focused on.
Yeah,
but anyone could
the game plan.
Anyone could deduce that. Like, what else are they gonna really focus on? Other than that.
But now you know Horford and Tice are gonna play so much better because of the bulletin board material, Haley.
The Tice ceiling doesn't really freak me out. I wouldn't be super intimidated by that. Al Horford, I guess we've seen more from him, but come on, guys, like.
I didn't hear what he said. I thought he just straight up called them old or something. Or
he said
it was really not that bad.
He said not having Robert Williams is huge because the Nets can attack Tice and Horford in the paint. Like,
I mean, he is saying they suck.
Yeah,
they're weaker, a little bit. So we're good.
It is like one of those sentences that whenever someone says, no disrespect, but, and then you know they're going to say something insanely disrespectful. Yeah. That's sort of what he did there. And, you know, the elder statesman and noted non-shade provider Kevin Durant had to settle up. One of my favorite subplots of the Nets is how much KD loves the younger players, like Brown and Cam Thomas. It's just like kind of cute to me.
He seems like a great teammate.
Totally.
And if anybody's wondering, there is not a real update on Robert Williams' return, but the first round is a possibility.
I also don't think he should come. We talked about this on another episode. Like, a meniscus tear? That's huge. Why are you trying to rush back on that? Please don't.
I read 4 to 6 weeks, right? And then I believe the first round is week 4. So it's basically the most aggressive injury timeline, which, you know, and Robert Williams' whole game, or like the value he provides to this team, is his springiness. And I just, listen, as an unbiased observer, I don't think he should play.
Yeah, you really don't want your
really help you guys out.
Most mobile inside defender to be immobile.
Caring for him.
I want to go to the Kevin Love line, which is a segment because we got an email that's about a relationship. So then Harry said, what if we call it the Kevin Love line?
Genius.
Yeah, really good. Harry, can you put us in one of the new Zoom situations for this? Is it going to stop the recording?
I honestly have no idea if it will or not.
You don't have to. I just kind of wanted to be in a boardroom.
Because this is serious business.
Or
in the stands.
Let's give it a try. Why not?
Hey.
Yeah, we're a panel of judges.
You look great. Harry's weirdly small.
Sashay away. Yeah. Okay, Jordan, do you want to read it? I think I sent it to you.
Yes, it is quite long. We're doing the Lakers one, right? Mm-hmm. That's all I'll say. Okay. So, hey girlies, Lakers mention, sorry Jordan. So at the beginning of the season, I, a Sagittarius 22, flew to LA to watch the first Suns at Lakers regular season game for a first date with this guy, Aries 27. This was the game that Dwight Howard and AD fought in the sidelines at, and the same game that courtside fans got removed for slapping away Rondo's hands when he pointed a finger gun at them. Chaos, and perhaps a hint of what was to come. LOL. Anyways, I thought things went super well, but then he ghosted me. And honestly, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that this is the one bad act that doomed the Lakers season. I also want to mention here, it was the man that ghosted me who suggested this podcast, Lemonade Out of Lemons. I truly appreciate y'all so much. Let me get so much. And it's a gif of Kris Jenner saying, "You're doing amazing, sweetie."
So many levels here.
So many levels.
I don't even know
this.
where to begin.
Yeah. Well, I guess first of all, thanks for recommending the Spinsters podcast.
Yes.
Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I feel like there's a couple. Yes. Aries man. You know, it's just as red as can be and just waving in the wind, that flag. On the contrary, great taste in podcasts. So
Very true.
they kind of even out a little bit. I also think that you can ethically ghost somebody, and it doesn't sound like that was exactly done here. I also want to know where she was flying out from.
Yeah,
That is-
big difference.
yes.
That's key.
Big question.
Do we have
there.
any? Yeah. What's everyone's thoughts?
Okay, that was the first thing that threw me about this. Flying out to LA for a first date Lakers game. Like, is this Christian Grey? Like, who are you? Who is this date with? What are your expectations? And also, the fact that he recommended this podcast to her and then she went on it to complain about him, she is still tripping. Like, it's months later, and this is like a long revenge game going on.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
it's
I
the
get
perfect
it.
amount of pettiness to me. It's really good. But this, you're right. There has been a long time. Like, that was the first regular season game. We are now in the playoffs, and so obviously, if she flew out, she had some high expectations. She thought this was going somewhere. She's still thinking about it. The ghosting just shouldn't happen with that high level of a first date. I think that's where oh boy is wrong. Like, that's
Wait. I want to throw something out. Maybe we're
Okay.
making the assumption that he asked her to fly out. What if it was her idea?
We do not know the context of how that went down. He could have been like, "Hey, it would be nice if we could go to this Laker game," and then she just hopped on a plane. We don't know.
I'm here.
We don't know.
I will push back on the idea that being flown out means that something serious is going to follow. Not from personal experience, but just saying.
I was gonna say, you ever been flown out for...
You know, I think that a Lakers game this season was a bad omen.
Yeah.
I think that you have to be careful when it's an Aries who is 5 years older than you, but I also think 22 is the cutoff of like, well, we're all adults here. 22, 23. Unless you're like, you know, there is another cutoff, but for people in their 20s, I think that that's fine. It's so uncomfortable to have that conversation where you're like, I don't know if this is working for me anymore. I'm overwhelmed. I'm tired. I don't have the space for this. But I will say, I don't think altogether ghosting is the nicest thing you can do, because a lot of the times it has nothing to do with the other person. You just don't have the facilities or time or whatever to be dating someone. So
I'm just gonna throw out my take. Don't have first dates that involve flying across the country ever.
okay.
Because I'm not blaming either party here, but it just seems like a high disaster potential for
High stakes.
anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So much money.
this is it was clearly some bad vibes that night at the Laker game with this date, the whole
Every
Lakers
Lakers game.
season.
Yeah.
I don't want to put that on this date specifically, but it was definitely some bad vibes. And I don't know everything about, you know, an Aries man, but maybe that was a part of it.
Yes.
Is Westbrook an Aries? Feels like he is.
No, I think he's a Scorpio.
Incredible that you know that off the top of your head, first of all.
I think he is.
I hope it's true.
Yeah. Well, because I the reason I think that is because I think I've looked it up before and I've thought that makes sense. Because you're a little bit like
Scorpios feels right too.
Yeah, you have a hard time coming to terms with when you're in the wrong. You don't know why people are wronging you. You're upset, all the time, but also you want people to love you. So
Scorpio, you're right.
Again, not speaking from personal experience or anything. What is the proper way to move forward for both of them? I would say if you are Aries man in this situation, and it's been a couple months, you sound like a nice person because you listen to our podcast. That's enough for me to say that. But I also even if you're a nice person, you dread that conversation. It's still nice months later to be like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was kind of weird. And this was happening in my life at the same time. I still wish I let you know I wasn't super interested at the time, but I am, kind of sorry about doing that.
Yeah. And you know what? Aries man, if you are listening, submit your side of the story. We would love to hear it. We would love to hear it because we need both sides for this. Honestly, this is really coming in a one way street. So if you're listening, please leave us a voicemail or email us at spinsters@bluehourpods.com.
Mina, what do you think?
I think there's just too many questions in this story right now. I need to know whose idea it was to fly out, first and foremost. If he suggested it, then he's a dick. If she flew out on her own volition, I'm less likely to blame... I mean, ghosting sucks regardless, grow up, be an adult, whatever, but I'm less likely to blame him for not wanting to date, I guess. I don't know, or to maybe being a little bit less sensitive to it. So that is the key piece of info that we need from both of you guys, since you're both listeners, apparently.
Yes, and thank you for listening. Harry, do you have any thoughts? You think about relationships a lot. Because one of his friends runs a relationship thing. I'm not saying
that was just really funny.
Damn.
Ooh, did I roast Harry? Sorry.
No, to be honest, my mind is spinning with this. I think the first thing where I am really thrown off is the idea of going, imagine what opening night at the Staples Center is like, and being like, yeah, so what do you do for work? What the hell? What a horrible flight. Just go to a bar within 1.5 miles of your house. What on earth are you doing going to a basketball game? I think. But at the same time, I guess I don't even know if I could give advice. I feel like I'm living such an entirely different life than somebody who would fly somebody out or even just kind of negotiate a flight situation with a first date. Those are things that I...
Are you a terrorist?
Negotiate. Well, I was just maybe she flew herself out. I don't know.
Well, this is all... And I think Jordan asked an important question, which is, where do you live? Because a flight from Vegas is very different from a flight from New York. Mm-hmm. Very different. The sacrifices are different. I mean, you can get to Vegas. Vegas is like a car trip. It's like $100,
Right.
But, if we're talking cross country, girl...
Yeah. Sierra also pointed out that it's not Staples. It was the official opening of crypto, which just adds to the bad vibes. They just keep getting worse. Yeah. Harry, that's a good point about the first date thing. I didn't consider how many siblings do you have? But you're at...
What's your favorite podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
Talked about.
They did talk about that. Thank goodness.
Hey, continue to recommend.
Yeah, but then the other thing I wanted to say about this is I also think, and that the chaos might be working in the other. Our listener who wrote this, I don't want to say her name, suggested that maybe the ghosting caused the Lakers' demise. I actually think it might have worked the other way, which is if you're gonna bring a fragile relationship into the kind of chaos nexus of crypto arena, what we now know is one of the worst seasons ever. what a bad omen. Like that's doomed from the start.
I have a question. Did they win the opening game?
No.
I don't think so, right?
No,
I don't think so.
Another point for our mystery man, because I have been in situations where I watched the Seahawks, my main team, with people for the first time, and if they lose, I'm like, all right, cool, see you in like 5 years.
Can never. Actually, we can't
do this again.
That might be
a good point. That's a good point.
That's a great point.
And honestly, I don't blame him.
Maybe that's what it is. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
This is just it's all bad. It's all
to
bad.
this
But
day,
thank you
I
for
have a
writing
really close friend, Kendall, who I don't watch the second half of Louisville games with because twice we lost when she came in at halftime with a bar. I will leave.
Totally rational behavior.
I'm pulling up the schedule right now just to fact check myself. And yes, they lost to the Golden State Warriors.
I solved it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. This is the Suns game. This was the Suns game.
Oh, so it's the second game, and they also lost it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Which is not really a surprise. Yeah.
Not a surprise. We knew it was downhill.
Yeah. Oh, well, we feel for both of you, and I think you're both probably super attractive and smart because you like this podcast. So
very true.
If you didn't like anything that we have to say, it was all said in irony, and continue listening to this podcast, please.
I meant all of it. None of it was.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's different.
I want to be your time. I know we went a little over your time.
That's okay. No worries.
Jordan, do you...
Consequences that my dog looking at me agitating for... Oh, you can't see it.
Lenny!
You want to see him before I go?
Yes. Hi, baby!
Hello.
Oh, he's speaking
into the mic.
Talking into the mic. Oh.
Hello. Oh.
He's in our panel.
Yeah.
World.
Our panel of judges, yes.
Dr. Boston. Steve Nash is going to win.
Well, folks, you heard it here first.
That wasn't me.
Well, that's our show. If you have a submission for the Kevin Love Line, please leave us a voicemail at 502-874-4453 or send us an email at spinsters@bluehourpods.com to be featured on the show. We already have one teed up for our next episode. Shout out to our listener, Harrison Boo. And shout out to our producer, Harry Krinsky.
Oh, to clarify, Harrison's isn't for the Love Line, but we want you to send in Love Line ones because I like talking about relationships that are not my own.
Hey, this is Taylor from Chicago. Before the season started, I boldly said the Pelicans were going to make the playoffs. It's been one hell of a ride. Didn't think we would get here, but I'm really loving this team, and I just want to see what's happening. It feels good to love a team like this. All right, bye.